There was once a little girl. This little girl's name was Fatou. Fatou was a beautiful little girl, but she was so unhappy. Let me tell you why Fatou was unhappy. Fatou was unhappy because she didn't like being a little girl. Nope, Fatou did not want to be a little girl. Fatou wanted to be a woman. And her mother would always tell her, her mother would say, Fatou, slow down. You are only the age you are today one time. You will never be the age you are today ever again. Her mother would tell her, enjoy the age you are today because tomorrow comes too soon. But do you think Fatou listened to her mother? Bati. No, in fact, there was something that Fatou loved that the women did different than the children. It was gathering water. You see, when the children would go to gather water, they would take these huge gourds and bowls. They would go down to the lake and they would scoop up water like this. And the children, Bati. The children would carry the water like this, and they would be laughing and playing on their way back home, and they would spill water. But the women, I don't know if you've ever seen this. When the women would gather water, they didn't carry it here. You know where they carried it? Where? You know this? Yes, the women would scoop up water like this with one hand holding the calabash. The women were strong, and they could take the calabash and put it on their heads. And then the women would walk back to the village with the calabash on their heads. They would put their hands down, and they would not spill a single drop of water. Bati. Now, only women were supposed to carry the calabash like this, not children. But when Fatou was in her room and nobody was around, sometimes she would practice scooping up water like a woman. She would practice putting the calabash on her head like a woman. She would practice walking with the calabash like a... One night she was doing this, and you know who caught her, who walked in her room? Who catches us doing everything? Her mom. Her mom walked in. She saw Fatou with the calabash on her head, and her mom said, Fatou, what are you doing? Fatou took the calabash off and she said, I'm sorry, mommy. And Fatou's mother looked at her and she said, Fatou, that is for women to gather water like that. It is not for young girls. How many times have I told you, you are only the age you are today? One time. You will never be the age you are today ever again. Her mother looked at her and said, Fatou, enjoy the age you are today because tomorrow comes too soon. Bati. Her mother left, Fatou went to bed, and that night something strange happened. Bati. That night, something strange happened. Fatou lay down and went to sleep. And as she was sleeping, she dreamed that she was a woman. She dreamed that she had clothing like women, that she had grown to be a woman, that in her dream, she dreamed that she gathered water like a woman. She had everything like women. And in her dream while she was sleeping, her dream made her smile. And then when she woke up, was she a woman? No, she was still a little girl. But, Bati. No, give me back what I give you. Bati. But she did something. She made a decision that changed everything. Even though she was still a little girl, she woke up. She decided that she wasn't going to wait to become a woman. That if she wanted to be a woman, she could be a woman that day. So she decided she was going to be a woman. So she went and got her mother's favorite calabash off of the shelf. She took the calabash and she walked down to the water where all the children were gathered. And when the children saw Fatou coming toward them with the calabash, the children looked and they said, there's something different about Fatou. There's something different. What is it? And then when she got to the water, they knew what it was because she took her calabash in one hand like a She scooped up water out of the lake like She put the calabash on her head like And she started to walk like And all the oh, wait a minute. Bati. Okay, when children in West Africa, remember I told you I traveled to Africa? When children are doing things like this, other children make this sound. It's a noise. The children, when I was in Gambia, taught me how to make this sound, but I don't want to scare anybody. I can make this sound for you, but I don't want you to be scared. Okay, hold on. Listen. You've never heard anything like this before, and it took me a while to learn it, for the children to teach me. But here's what I'm gonna do. I don't want you to be afraid. I'm gonna make the sound, but if you are afraid, cover your ears right now. Cover your ears. I don't want you to hear this. So when Fatou was acting like a woman, doing all this stuff, here's the sound. This is the sound the children in Gambia taught me to make. They were watching her, and all of the children went, ooh. Now, I don't know what that means. I don't know how children do that, but they all made that sound. But Fatou didn't care. Bati. Fatou didn't care. She had the calabash on her head. She was walking, it was staying, and she was being a woman, and she decided to get fancy. She decided she was gonna walk in front of all of the children, fast as she could, spin around in a circle, and keep the calabash on her head without touching it. So, Bati, she walked in front of all of the children like this, and then she spun around with the calabash on her head like this. And when she spun around, the calabash jumped from her head, it hit the ground, and it broke into many, many pieces. All the children, they looked at her, and they went, ooh. Hold up, how y'all know how to do that? Y'all already knew that? Bati. So what you're telling me is that children in Africa and children here are the same? Bati. Fatou bent down like this. She started picking up the broken pieces of calabash. Bati. She took the broken pieces and she started to walk home. Now, her mother was nowhere around. Her mother was not there. When she was picking up those broken pieces, her mom wasn't there. But it was like her mother was in her head. She could hear her mother. As she's walking with the broken pieces, she could hear her mother saying, Fatou, you're only the age you are today one time. You will never be the age you are today ever again. Enjoy the age you are today because tomorrow comes too soon. So she's walking home, and I don't know why, but all the children who saw her break the calabash, they started following her home. And as Fatou is walking home, Bati. Oh, I felt that. You gave back. Bati. As Fatou is walking home with the broken calabash, all the children are following her. And when she gets home, who's waiting outside? Her mom is waiting outside. And then when she sees her mother, she's walking with all these broken pieces. When she sees her mother, she walks towards her mother, and Fatou starts, Bati. Y'all are really good at that crying part. Bati. When her mother saw her crying, her mother said, Fatou, why are you crying? Because no mother can ever stand to see their child cry in tears. She said, why are you crying? And Fatou, just like a lot of you, she answered the same way most children do. When her mother said, why are you crying? She looked at her mother and she said, I don't know. Y'all know you do that. You know you do that. But Bati, her mother saw the broken calabash in her hands. It was her mother's favorite bowl. And her mother said, Fatou, What happened to my bowl? My favorite bowl. What happened? And just like y'all, when your parents ask you stuff, she answers the same way. When her mother said, what happened to my bowl? She looked and she said, nothing. Vati. But all of those children who followed Fatou home, they jumped in front of Fatou, they moved her out of the way, they stood in front of her mother, they said, we know what happened, we saw the whole thing, we'll tell you what happened. And then all the children said, Fatou came down to the lake with your calabash and she scooped up water like, She put the calabash on her head like, She tried to walk like, And when we saw her doing this, we all looked at her and went, They said that's when Fatou decided to get fancy. She walked past all of us really fast. She spun around in a circle like this. The calabash jumped from her head, it fell to the ground, and it broke into many, many pieces. And again, we all looked at her and we said, Bati. Then they moved out of the way. Fatou's mother looked at her in her eyes. And Fatou, her mother said, is what these children are saying, is this true? You always, you always want to tell the people who love you the truth. So Fatou, she got her courage together. She looked her mother in her eyes and she said, yes, mommy, everything they're saying is true. And Fatou's mother began to, the tears came out of her eyes. The tears went down her mother's cheeks and the tears fell to the dirt. And when the tears fell to the dirt, her mother looked at her and she said, all of your life, I've only tried to teach you one thing and one thing only. And I will never, ever say this again. You will never hear me say this again. She looked at Fatou and she said, please hear me. She said, Fatou, each and every one of you in here is only the age you are today. None of you, I mean none of you, will ever be the age you are today ever again. Her mother looked at her, pleading with her to understand. She said, enjoy the age you are today because tomorrow comes too. Bati. Fatou learned her lesson. But the way that she learned her lesson was by breaking her mother's. When we don't listen to our elders, when we don't listen to the adults in our life who love us, we break their hearts. Bati. I shared with you a story. This makes us all friends. And this is how the tale of Fatou ends. Thank you so much.